John 17:9, Jesus here praying to the Father for the disciples says, "Father, I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but pray for those you have given me, for they are yours." So this begs the question as to why doesn't Jesus pray for the whole world? Well, we have to understand that Christ fulfills all three of the Old Testament offices: prophet, priest, and king. You see, the prophet spoke the words of God to the people, just as Christ did. The king ruled God's people with his law, as Jesus set forth for the disciples. But the high priest interceded for the sins of his people, for the nation of Israel, not for every nation, but for the specific people that he was over. And Christ, as he has laid forth in the verses prior, says those who have believed on him, he now intercedes for and prays to the Father as high priest. Now we might want to remember that the love of God is over all creation. So there is a certain or general sense in which God loves all things, all of creation, for he made it, and it is good. But because of sin and because of brokenness, there's a special love of God reserved for believers. This is who Christ here is interceding for. And we have to understand that that believing puts us in a relationship with God that goes both ways, not just blessing, but also discipline. Think of it as you're in the supermarket and you see kids acting up, and they're someone else's kids, and you might think to yourself, that's not good, and I care about those kids, but you don't have a relationship with those children. So you don't discipline them in the same way you would discipline your own children. And this is really what we must think of as believers. We have a special relationship, a closeness to the Father through the Son. And sometimes that results in blessing, but it can also result in discipline when we disobey, when we break God's law, because Christ is, again, both the prophet who speaks for God, both the king who rules his people for God, and both the high priest who intercedes and prays for us as his people. And so as we look to Christ to fulfill all three of those roles on our behalf, let us remember that we must be his loyal subjects, that we must listen to his words of prophecy, and that we must also pray to him as he prays for us.